if the money runs out, well, then for a few days there's nowhere to go to. And that's all you can do. I simply have to find the warmest shed I can find.
At 35, he's living in a council flat in the Shetland Islands.
The nice thing about here is that you can cut yourself off when you want, because there are people living around, but they're pretty quiet people. It's an environment which sustains me. It's one in which I can survive. I still feel my real place is in the world of the world where people are doing what the majority of people do. And the reason I don't feel safe is because I think I'm getting more and more used to this lifestyle, which eventually I shall have to give up.
How do you manage for money these days?
Social Security, still. I wish it wasn't, but I'm afraid it is. Well, I've no desire to be putting the taxes up and drawing money off people who've earned it themselves. But that's the way it is.
Well, I'm going to take people to the country and sometimes take them to the seaside and I'll have a big loud speaker in the motor coach and tell them whereabouts we are and what we're going to do and what the name of the road is and all about that.
Neil was brought up in a Liverpool suburb, went to a local comprehensive school and Aberdeen University. He dropped out after a term and at 21 was working on a building site in London. At 28, he was homeless. How do people regard you here?
Well, I'm still known as an eccentric, as I have been since about the age of 16 or so.
Do the days seem long for you?
They can do.
Do you have any friends anywhere?
I have some good friends still in England.
Neil settled down in the Shetland Islands a couple of years ago.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
Is this community important to you?
Yes, it has to be. This is where I live. It's been very good to me. People have been especially kind in many areas, and I'd like to be putting something back into it, and we'd be putting something back into the whole of Shetland, not just into this area. I'll take 2 pints of milk, please.
There we are, Neil. And how's the pantomime then?
Not so bad.
Oh, that's good. No traumas?
It's not on my part. There's a few people could do with learning their lines a bit better.
But you're all right.
Well, I shouldn't speak too soon.
When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. But if I can't be an astronaut, I think I'll be a coach driver.
This is probably linked up with the fact now I want to travel. I mean, my thoughts haven't really changed differently, so I definitely wouldn't like to be a coach driver now.
I suppose yes, well, I would like to be somebody in a position of importance, and I've always thought this. But I don't think I'm the right sort of person to carry the responsibility for whatever it is. I always thought, well, I'd love to be, possibly even love to be in politics or something like this. But I suppose that I'd probably find that just as tedious as all the other jobs I've done. So. All the things I always thought I could do. I could give lectures on erudite subjects that I'd read all about, or I could work in the theatre, perhaps lighting or directing a show.
And is all that lost to you?
Does seem to be, yes.
The Village Pantomime, 1990. Beauty and the Beast.
Matthew! Matthew! Your house, sir, is needing maybe some repairs. I think the attendance at last year's pantomime on the Saturday night was the biggest crowd of West of Shetland folk I've ever seen in one place. And, you know, we're pleased with that, and we think they enjoyed it. We've had good receptions in other parts of Shetland as well. We did tour one play. I think we're moving into an age when there's going to be more stress on the community, when bigger policies are fairly set, are fairly predictable, and the emphasis is going to fall on local organisation.
You directed it last year and you're not this year. Why is that?
Well, the specific reason is that we had a preliminary meeting, and my name was not put forward as the one they wanted. So,
why would that be?
Probably because I like to do things in my own way. I'm perhaps quite an authoritative director. I have my own idea of the performance before we even start. And I don't like people to deviate from that. And during the course of the production, of course, people come along with suggestions. No, I accept suggestions. I don't just go along without listening to people. But I know how I want the thing. And once I deviate once from that idea, the whole thing actually falls apart. It's not a work of art anymore. I'm not claiming that I've produced marvellous works of art, but I do know what I'm aiming for. Alas, poor master, still sleeping. Shall I awaken him? I think everybody wants to be somebody, and when you can't actually be anything in your ordinary life, if you feel there's a sphere in which you can excel, then it's great. I mean, I know how much pleasure people who take photographs get when their work is praised, and that's, you know, perhaps it's much the same thing.
You're just having a quick look at your plan here, as it stands.
What I have done, I've taken lists of all the community halls in Shetland with their capacity.
Neil is trying to organise a professional touring theatre company.
If a hall only seats 60 people, it may not be worth putting on a show there.
So, I mean, what was your response then to the fact that only 4 folk turned up at the... I mean,
I was very disappointed. I was disappointed, but I think it proves the point that I've been trying to make, that you can't just expect people to turn up for a group from outside Shetland when they don't know what the thing's about. I've had an instinctive feeling that I was a writer since I was 16. I never really wanted to be anything else. I would actually pay to have something published, because I think that's important. I think I could find somebody who would recognise something. There must be something in what I've done. I don't think it's all useless. I probably am overvaluing it, but I know how much effort went into some of it, and on that strength alone, I just can't believe it's useless. With each successive play, I don't know who I'm trying to speak to and what I'm trying to say to them, whether they're listening. I just keep going because that's what I feel I should be doing.
In the winter, if you lived in the country, well, it was just all wet and there wouldn't be anything for miles around. And if you get soaked if you tried to go out, and there's no shelter anywhere except in your own house. But in the town, you can go out on wet, wintry days because you can always find somewhere to shelter because there's lots of places.
I don't think I've been typical of the environment in which I lived. What my background has given me is a sense of just being part of a very impersonal society. You finish the week, you come home, you plug into the TV set for the weekend, and then you manage to get back to work on Monday. And it seems to me that this is just a slow path to total brainwashing. And if you have a brainwashed society, then you're heading towards doom. There's no question about that.
Well, it weren't too bad last night, anyway.
It was better than it's been for a while, I think.
There was enormous reaction to you in the previous film. What did people see in you, do you think?
It seemed that I was representing some kind of successful escapism, or somebody who'd managed to be totally himself, hadn't given in to pressure of society to conform. And people flooded me with letters, and people seemed to think I could solve their personal problems. And I was quite frightened because I knew I couldn't. But what really bothered me was people seemed to see something in me that I hadn't been aware of myself. All I was aware of was that I didn't have anywhere to go, I had nothing to do, I had no money. I felt let down by quite a lot of people. I didn't think my life was a success, but suddenly everybody seemed to think so. But the most nagging thing was that whatever, even if 1 million people had written to me, it wouldn't have made any difference to my own situation.
When I get married, I don't want to have any children because they are always doing naughty things and making the whole house untidy.
I always told myself that would never have children.
Why?
Because children inherit something from their parents. And even if my wife were the most high-spirited and ordinary and normal of people, the child would still stand a very fair chance of being not totally full of happiness because of what he or she will have inherited from me.
Have you given up on women?
Well, how shall we say? All but, you know. I mean, there's always, every unmarried man and I suppose every unmarried woman hopes for somebody who will actually come along to change their life. But the practical reality is the chances of my finding somebody who would put up with me in my integrity are few. So,
what would you look for in a woman?
Well, I might look for various things, but what's probably more important is what somebody would look for in me. I can't offer reliability. I mean, I think most women looking for a husband or a steady man want somebody who is reliable in some way or other. Well, I cannot offer that because I don't know what I'm going to be like from one day to the other, and it would be foolish me pretending that that I could offer something like that. I can offer sincerity. I can offer compassion, willingness to do my part, to put my wife's interest as high as my own. No doubt I'm sure these are important, but I cannot say, look, in 10 years' time, I'll still be bringing a wage in, especially if I don't start in that situation. Do
you worry about your sanity?
Other people sometimes worry about it.
Like who?
As I said, I sometimes can be found behaving in an erratic fashion. I sometimes get very frustrated, very angry, for no apparent reason, for a reason which won't be apparent to other people around me. It's happened from time to time.
Are you getting better or worse, do you think, your state?
I don't think there's any significant change in the sort of... I said I haven't been so depressed since I've been in Shetland. I said my basic personality is not a lot different.
Are you having any medical treatment for your mood changes?
No, I haven't for many years. Because I wouldn't like to be dependent upon man-made substances for the cure.
Do you ever think you're going mad?
Oh, I don't think it. I know it. Well, because we're not allowed to use the word mad. But, I think most people are mad here, really. But then I think it's a mad world. I remember working in London 12 years ago, and just walking through the city, and they were digging up the drains, and there were cranes knocking down buildings, and there were cars trying to get down impossible narrow alleys and having to reverse out again, and policemen doing all kinds of things. And I thought, this world is just mad. This world is just mad. I find it hard to believe that I was ever like that, but there's the evidence. And probably when I was 7, I just lived in a wonderful world where everything was sensation and dumb. I could be happy like this, I could be miserable next minute. I don't have a yearning for any past time in my life. Perhaps in my subconscious I recall a time when everything was a lot happier. My teens were terribly unhappy years.
If we come back in 7 years, how would you like us to find you?
In a job from which I was getting satisfaction, married, probably with children, with a good salary, enough to as I said before, to be able to live fairly comfortably, and with friends whom I could contact when I wanted to.
So do you think you have failed?
Can't really judge.
Do you feel you failed yourself?
Well, my life isn't over.
Can you think what you'd like to be doing in the year 2000?
I can think of all kinds of things I'd like to be doing. The real question is what am I likely to be doing?
What are you likely to be doing?
And that's a horrible question. I tend to think the most likely answer is that I'll be wandering homeless around the streets of London. But with a bit of luck, that would happen. I always feel that somehow a good fairy has waved a wand over me and saved me from that. Because that seemed very much what the end would be for a while. That's perhaps why I cling on here. I know how tempting it is to escape into fantasies, to believe that I already am a successful writer, to believe that I've got lots of friends, to believe that if only I had done such and such, my life would have been different. But I mean, the most difficult thing is to accept the reality, to be what we are in a situation we're in. That's terribly difficult.
Who lost their trousers?
The second time that's happened.
Again?
No, not intentionally. You did.
No, last year my moustache fell off. My beard.
At the end of their very special day in London, after their trip to the zoo and the party, we took our children to an adventure playground where they could do just what they liked. Those from the children's home set about building a house. There's Nicholas. And Tony. Andrew. And Bruce. John. Susie. Jackie and her friends. Give me a child until he is 7, and I will give you the man. This has been a glimpse of Britain's future.